Welcome back to the Lost Info Podcast. As always, it's keeping you awake, Jake.
And Jake.
So we are on to Case File Vatican. This one has a lot of little interesting tidbits. Obviously, anybody that knows of the Vatican knows how deep this goes and the history that it has. So there's a lot in this one. Before we get started, if you would like to go to help us out, you can go to the show notes below, go to our store, order a t-shirt or a hoodie or something like that. If I can stress enough, please go and subscribe and like on our YouTube page. That'll help us out tremendously, if anything. Otherwise, you can go to spectra.com and you can get any CBD products. Fill your cart. They have deals already. And then when you get to the checkout, put TLI 15 and you get an additional 15% off, and that helps us out as well. So make sure you do that to help us out. That's just to start things off. But then other than that, I guess we're going to jump right into the Vatican. As you can see in the background, this is the image that we chose of Vatican City. Basically, Vatican City, Vatican in general, it became a country, I believe, in 1929. Those dates will be in here as we go along. But they're the smallest country in the world, pretty much one of the most powerful countries in the world because of their influence without having to infiltrate a country or, start a war to take over anything. It's basically just through religion, which is throughout the world. So they have a very good reach. Their reach goes throughout the world. They touch pretty much everything, and unfortunately, including children.
Not to laugh at it.
Yeah, like, it's not funny, but it's true. It's true.
Don't take our joking as
well, and that's the thing is like it's
just so widely understood and it's widely known, and nobody everybody still puts money in the offering plate.
Well, and that's the thing is like they have the highest pedophile charges. They spend. And I have that in the notes too, like some amount of billions a year just to protect the priests that have done it. So it's not like it's just made up. It's an actual thing. So
yeah, it's also very widely known that the money that they get for these legal defenses and these relocations, come from the churches of the congregation.
And even the amount that they protected that's within the Vatican, it was like another statistic that'll be down in there, but it was the most unsafe place for your child as far as fondling and molestation is the Vatican. So, the contradictory and the irony is so messed up to me that it's pretty mind-blowing.
Right.
But we'll take you down a little path here. Again, they're a city-state country, so they follow their laws can change based on what they want. Since that they are their own country, it goes down some weird rabbit holes. Like I said, they're the largest controlling factor in the world without an army. They do have a military, their guard, which is the Swiss Guard, and from what I've heard, it's basically like Green Berets on a whole nother level, the Swiss Army that protects the Vatican, and they are hired. Now, if you go back in history,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you go back in history, it was actually the Jesuits that was hired to protect the Vatican.
Right.
Then the Jesuits had got so out of control at one point that they basically were outlawed from every country on this planet. They weren't even allowed to be in the country. And then they had left the Vatican for a long time, and then they came back.
So who outlawed them from these places?
I think it was like a UN, like United Nations. They all got together, and it was because of so much damage. And I think this was prior to World War II and everything else. Like, it was just at a point where the assassinations and whatever else were pretty much, I don't know.
Rampant?
And I don't know that they actually found a lot of them guilty because they couldn't, but they knew that these assassinations were organized by the Jesuits. And if you go into the Jesuits order, I might pull this up here when Jacob starts talking. I might pull up the Jesuit order and tell you. But I mean, briefly, a description that a Jesuit has to, his oath to sign in as a Jesuit is basically to protect the beliefs of Christianity to any extent, which is burn, fillet, torture. Yeah.
Right.
And it said, even to the extent of taking a child from a womb and beating it against a wall. So that
Yikes.
being tied into religion.
Yikes. That's
yeah.
Well, sign me up.
Well, that's the thing. If you take that into the account that this is by a religion, it's just like, how do those two even coexist?
Yeah, how do they equate to each other when this is supposed to be the love and compassion of the Lord? And we're talking about we can rip children from the womb if you're not on our side.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like those two shouldn't go together. And they call the Jesuits the Black Popes. And they're basically like, if you ever look throughout history,
like secret police.
Yeah, and the head Jesuit is usually always with the Pope, but he's always in the background and just kind of off to the side. There is an interview, Pound Search It, where they talk to a Jesuit and ask about the oath, and he literally was like, because he didn't want to answer the question if that was a real oath. It is a real oath. They do have to do it. So basically, in the eyes of them, they're able to do whatever to protect or maintain the belief of Christianity.
Hell yeah.
So it's pretty radical. I mean, and then if you go into, just the Vatican and its start, I think it was before it was a country, obviously, but it was the power that they had was amongst kings. And then they, like I said, they infiltrated throughout religion without armies. And then they, convinced Christian kings to basically rule the way they wanted. So they had a huge influence. And then you go into the Crusades and everything that the Vatican also was a part of.
Spanish Inquisition. Let's not.
It was.
Spanish Inquisition was literally what led us to the Dark Ages.
Yeah, and if you look at,
we killed everybody in their sites. That didn't agree.
Yeah, and in the most brutal ways.
Galileo was faced with, I don't know if you know this, but Galileo, the famous Galileo, mapping the stars.
Yeah.
It was talked to by the Vatican and the Pope. And the Pope said, denounce all of your life's work.
Yeah.
Like, denounce all your life's work, or
be burned at a cross.
Burned at the stake, or your entrails be ripped out.
Yeah, they even had ones where they tied each limb to a horse and ripped you completely apart. I mean, or stoned to death even farther back.
But they would take it where they cut your stomach open. And they cut your stomach open and they'd put fiery hot coals inside of you and sew you back up.
Yeah, I mean, like,
what? Who thinks of these things?
And then even today, we do.
Who thinks of these things? Like,
I know.
Who's sitting in bed like, honey,
this is how we want to kill them. Yeah, exactly.
This one's going to be great. Like, this one's going to be revolutionary. We're going to put him inside of a bowl, inside of an iron or brass bowl, and then we're going to light under fire underneath, and then we're going to put tubes through the bull's nose so it sounds like the bull is snorting and howling as the people inside are boiling to death. It's going to be groundbreaking.
It almost seems like entertainment in a form that they were trying to find a way to either make a point or just how brutal they could be.
How else can you publicly torture and destroy people without making it somewhat entertaining to the general public? Also, at the same time, not only are you making it entertaining, but you're also 100% showing a certain level of enforcement. Yeah. Like, just letting you guys know, like, we're going to put them out here and show it for your entertainment, but we're letting you know you could be next.
Well, and the thing is, I think we can't look past what humans are capable of, because even in Roman times, I mean, we were in the Colosseum slaughtering each other for entertainment. So it's not that humans are past that. Like, we're
still not.
Yeah, we just are a little bit more refined as far as like maybe like the UFC. There's rules.
I was just gonna say, like, those things. As much as I'm entertained by them,
yeah, but it's still humans still love to watch other humans dominate other ones and destroy them. Now, even in executions in the United States, I mean, they're a little bit more civilized with chemical injection. It happens quicker and whatever else, not as much suffering. But they still have.
I don't know. I personally, not to cut you off.
Well, I don't know that that's actually true either.
Well, that's the thing is that, so like, do you know the process of like, so the process of the lethal injection, the first step is paralyzing you.
Yeah.
Which means you don't know if they're in pain. They just can't vocalize they're in pain.
Very true.
And if I'm paralyzed, that means I can't breathe by myself. And if you're telling me I can't breathe by myself and you don't have me hooked up to an oxygen machine, I'm suffocating while I'm sitting here and I'm conscious.
I think
I'm consciously suffocating.
I was going to say, I think it's just more for
Do you know where they got
paperwork.
Do you know where they got the original process for lethal injection?
I do not.
From the Nazis.
That makes sense.
Do you know where the Nazis got the idea from? Well, from the Spanish Inquisition.
That makes sense.
Look it all up.
Go ahead and search that for yourself.
It's just a trail of, like, it all came from the Nazis, but again, like, it's a part of the same level. The Nazis were trying to be what the Vatican is.
Now, I don't want, just so you know, I'm not trying to attack anybody certain when I say these things on Christianity or Jews, but I did have this theory about Jews kind of running everything behind the scenes. Now we look at Hollywood, obviously they run that, whatever else. But I went back and I was tracking the first Jesuits, and it said that the very first Jesuit was a converted Jew. Now, did he carry on his beliefs and want to take over the Christianity and run things from the background? I don't know that for certain. But
here's what I don't understand about
coincidental.
About Judaism and the Vatican and Christianity, and because Christianity isn't even a part of the Vatican. It has nothing to do with the Vatican. You know what I'm saying? Because that's Catholicism.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I mean. So like, Christianity isn't a part of that, nor is Judaism necessarily. But they all stem from Jesus, King of the Jews, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as like the Council of Constantine, what was like the doctrine religion at that point was Christianity, but the Roman Catholic Church already existed because that's who
I think Catholicism
that's who crucified Jesus.
Yeah.
Was the Roman, like, they said that the Jews, but the Roman Catholic Church.
Catholicism is the biggest, but then I think that there was like a lot of controversy on, well, I mean, you know, the Crusades and everything else, that Christianity was like, well, I'm going to break off and make a little
but the Crusades had a lot. The Crusades had a lot to do with the Muslims and Catholicism. Like when you had, you know, like the Knights Templar and whatnot. The Knights Templar were trying to eradicate the Muslims. They saw the Muslims in the Holy Land, and they were trying to get they were trying to get them as well as Judaism.
There is a little controversy on the Knights Templar because a lot say that they didn't do as bad a thing, which they did do some bad things, but it was more that they were just trying to keep the secrets of Catholicism or Christianity.
Right, well, they moved the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah. And they were supposed to just be like warrior protectors of the secrets, and they were willing to do anything to protect them. But I do think that they were on more of a nefarious level too, because I mean, you look back in history, there wasn't really any ground-making good decisions. It was kind of ruthless all around.
The Knights Templar were essentially, they were a mob.
Yeah,
they were a heavily armed, heavily financed, heavily trained mob.
Well, and then later on,
fought the religious fight.
And later on, it was it was Catholicism that wanted to take them out because and that's the thing is, if you look at the Vatican now, and it's to be said, and it's still mind blowing to me, but a 58-mile vault is supposedly underneath Vatican and the territory. And I just don't understand, because that's.
Have you heard about?
That's insane.
There are hundreds of thousands of square feet underneath, and not even just tunnels. You're talking about like tunnel. There's warehouses underneath the Vatican and the Vatican City that are full of artifacts.
Yeah,
that are full of hidden treasures, hidden religions, like entire civilizations that these religious people like absolutely went into this region of the world.
Yeah,
and killed these people. And took all of their belongings and literally completely eradicated this entire religion off of the face of the earth while
taking all this stuff.
History.
Yeah, I was going to say while erasing the history, because that's the main thing is that I think even if we knew a fraction of what they have, whether it's a 58-mile vault or just underneath the building,
know what to do with.
I think that would change our history because we'd have a lot more information, the lost info, hence the lost info. And the thing is, I think that is most destructive is when, some of these either other countries destroy other countries' history and sculptures and everything else. Because there's even the ones that we've taken down of,
Gaddafi.
the Confederate soldiers, brass soldiers in these parks. No, they shouldn't be honored in a park. They should be put in a museum saying these were who fucked our history up.
They should be removed from public parks.
Yeah.
They should be removed from public schools.
Yeah.
They should be like no child in Germany wants to go to Adolf Hitler High School.
Right.
Just like no black person in America
think that some
wants
of those
to go to Jefferson Davis High School.
I think some of those things should be in an institute, like a museum.
They need to go to a museum where it can be studied and it can be understood. But there's no reason why I'm going to a park and I'm going to see a statue of Confederate soldiers in the middle of my park. Like, that makes no sense.
But you shouldn't destroy them either. You should keep them so that we know what not to do again from these people.
But with that being said, saying that you know your history, that history is not going to repeat itself if you don't have this statue, that just doesn't make sense. You're going to continue. Like, there are people doing these things.
No, it's just that we should know our history, no matter what it is. And obviously,
that statue is not necessary.
No, it's
to know our history. If we want to know our history, then they should.
They also don't explain anything. They put a little plaque
that honors them. Honor that person.
Yeah, that I don't agree.
If they're honoring him, that means that he's an honorable person.
Yeah, and that definitely should.
No, they should have a plaque giving a description
of what horrible things
of the horrible person that
they were supporting
in a museum with a disclaimer before you walk through this section. This is the racist section. Yeah. This is the section that America's not proud of, but everybody needs to know because it's a respect issue that they know. But the Vatican, though, to tie that back to this, the Vatican was heavily involved in the slave trade.
Oh, yeah.
The Vatican financed these
slaves. I was going to say, if we go back into the actual profiting of the Vatican, you're going to see that there's just so many incidents where it's not that they were stand-upish or made a mistake. It was that they didn't care how they gained power or kept power. They did it at all costs and to profit. And that was what led me into this next thing. They're a business. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, that's just where the religion's headquarters. No, they're an absolute profitable business. They don't even sell anything other than a service. And that is basically to control the beliefs of Catholicism. But
they're better than the mob.
Yeah, and their net worth 10 to 15 billion on paper. And they're the smallest country in the world. And I don't even think that is an accurate number, but there's really no way other to prove it. That's just what we know of. And that's just like the Rothschilds, like, the banking and the Rothschilds family, they have an indication of about what they're worth. But in reality, like, the world's worth is supposedly $440 trillion and undocumented for most of it because they've kept all the gold and all the treasures from history and everything else. That the Rothschilds family is worth 300 trillion. So
Jesus Christ.
And so it's the same thing with the Vatican, is that everything that they've kept is all assets and history and everything else, and all the gold that they probably have. And again, the Ark of the Covenant still missing, which might be in this vault. You never know. Chalice, all kinds of the secrets and the things that the Knights Templar were protecting in the golds of Solomon's Temple. All that could be in there. We just don't know that. Now, insiders have said that in this vault, you have to take a train, an underground rail to sections of it because it's so big. And that, again, blows my mind of the amount of just tablets and old documents and books. And I mean, and
to imagine, like, you're talking like,
our whole history, our written history.
Who do you think, honestly, multiple, this is like a 2 to 3 part question. One, do you think that the Pope has access to it? Or do you think it's a similar thing where the president, because I personally believe Oli said differently, but I thought for a long time that presidents only have a certain level of information because of plausible deniability. But do you think that the Pope that's been elected, quote unquote, Do you think that he knows all of the secrets of the Vatican? Do you think that he has full reign and he can go down?
I think it would be on a level of, let's say, like Bush Sr. Bush Sr. was the head of CIA before he was president.
Well, so he knew more secrets than I think that the president knew going
exactly.
into it.
So he was already like on the end. So
do you think that he still had that same access as president?
Yeah, I think once you know it, they're like.
No, but what I'm saying though is that there was he obviously had different CIA ops that he did and whatnot. But do you think that he knew all of the secrets of what the U.S. president is?
I think
like the whole book of secrets.
Yeah, because all of the, well, just from my studies, all of the organizations like the Trilateral Commission and the Foreign Council and whatever else, he was on all that. So I think that out of a lot of our presidents, Bush Sr.
He's probably one of the most well-informed.
Yeah, was just in the depths of everything that was
he
controlling.
He halfway created the swamp that
I was going to say the Bilderberg group, the Bohemian
Carlisle.
Grove. He was in all of it.
Oh, he was. Yeah, absolutely.
So he probably knew more than any of our presidents. But I think it's like this on the Pope and like our president. It depends which ones. And the ones that are already kind of on the agendas of the long game, I think they do know. But like this one right now, and I don't know, he's hard for me to read because
you talking about Biden?
No, the Pope Francis.
I don't. Yeah, he's very
like
hard.
Because at first I liked when the Obama administration, he got all of the religions together. It was somewhere in Philadelphia. Then like I started looking into like the rituals and where they're held. And Philadelphia seems to be like one of these energy ley lines of the world. And so they have a lot of these rituals that happen there. And they had said somewhere in one of these old things that once all the religions of the world gather is when we can start viewing down the end of the tunnel. And so that kind of looks more like it was on purpose rather than like, let's just get everybody together to, have world peace.
Yeah, they're not trying to get religions together for good reasons.
Yeah.
It would be for multiple, it'd be one of a handful of things, obviously. One would be, that's part of the whole marking of the Antichrist is when you have the one world religion.
Yeah.
That's the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's what these secret societies, that's what these
Bohemian
Grove, that's what these people are like going for.
And that's what I had read when they were talking about during the Obama administration, when they all gathered in that, I think it was in the museum in Philadelphia, maybe the art museum or something, and it was like supposed to be like a healing mass for all the religions. But then I started looking deeper and it was like, I don't know if it is that. And then I find that Pope Francis is the first Jesuit Pope in a long time. And my personal opinion, and this is mine only, is that the Jesuits got banned from all the countries because they were growing so powerful. They went ahead and built their forces even higher, came back, and they're running the show from behind the scenes.
In order for that to be possible, they would have to have been connected all the way through.
Well, yeah, just not publicly announced that the Vatican had any ties to Jesuits, only because all the other
Vatican
countries
financed and helped the Jesuits.
Or that. But because I was like, the only other thing is that you can't, as the Vatican, you can't say all the other countries banned them for their crimes, but we're going to still hold them close and valuable. They had to like separate themselves for a while.
Right. But at the same time, where would they have garnered this power from?
Well, and that's the thing.
How do you garner a religious power under undercover?
Either they went and built this outside and came back in, or they just had the inside still, but couldn't publicly say it. Yeah, but publicly, or in the end, this 58 million volt that they were building.
Exactly.
But they publicly couldn't say that they were, with the Jesuits due to the fact that no other country on the planet wanted them in their country.
Right.
Because of the crimes that they were willing to do. And just like in that oath, like it literally specifies how they're not willing to sacrifice anything other than people and whatever's in their way. So not even for the goodness of what you would call a religion of God, it's just whatever they thought was necessary. So another little fact, the population of the Vatican is 1,000, which I thought was a really small number.
We're 1,000?
1,000. But
That's think it's less than the people I went to high school with.
Yeah, I think it's due to like a lot of there's just not residents for permanent living, and that the ones that are mainly like seminaries and priests and whatever else and all that stuff. But the Yeah, there's another little fact that, or not, I don't know if this one's fact you can say, because I looked up, found different numbers, but at one point, something you can come search up for yourself, but it said that the Pope's net worth, and the Pope basically takes all of its net worth and transfers it on to the next one.
Which I don't understand.
Yeah, but it's 400 billion.
400 billion. Half a trillion.
So that's not the Vatican's net
that's
worth.
The Pope.
That's the Pope's
this
net
is
worth.
What I don't understand.
Whoever gets to be the Pope.
So Pope Benedict, what's his net worth today? Now that he's no longer Pope, did he relinquish that net worth?
See, the only time,
or is he still a part of a pool that's a part of that network? Because he's not just like thrown out to the wind.
I don't know, because there was one Pope, and I don't remember which
one
it is.
Usually you die in office, but I guess
that didn't stay, because the Pope can stay as long as.
Well, Pope Benedict.
Yeah.
Like just walked away from it.
Well, I think they forced him to.
Well,
because of all the shit he was involved in, they were like,
he was a Nazi youth and he made it. So like, if he was a Nazi youth and he made it, and that wasn't the deciding factor, what else could you have done during the 10, 12 years you were there?
Yeah. It's hard to say on that, because
you were a Nazi, bro.
It doesn't specify what transfers in the Pope's brain.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if I become the Pope today,
other than its value, all of the actual value does get transferred to the
right. But that's what I mean, though. Is that my actual net worth? Like, is it liquid? Like, I can say I'm worth 400 billion now. I'm going to transfer that to my cousin Earl.
See, and I think it's more or less like whoever's running from behind the scenes has a place. CEO. Yeah, has a place to put that net worth.
He's just the name and the face.
Because it would look worse if it was, let's just say 415 billion was the Vatican's net worth. Then everybody would be like, why the fuck are we going and spending all this money on Vatican money that you can only spend there? And all these little stupid trinkets and fucking candles and everything else. Like,
bottles of holy water.
Yeah, if they got that much money, like,
what do you think? Like, what are they? The Vatican is the #2 largest landowner in the world, behind, I want to say, behind the Queen of England.
I'm not sure on that one. I don't know.
I don't search it. Yeah. I'm gonna Google it with you. Maybe, I'm gonna double check I'm pretty sure. I know. Let me double check it before I say. I'm pretty sure that the Queen of
England.
Go
ahead and check that. The Swiss Guard, like I said, is their protectors. It's basically a hired army from Switzerland, and there's 108. And again, like I said, they're like the Green Berets, are the best of the best. I guess, like, in their hand-to-hand combat and weapons experts, and I mean the whole fucking 9 yards. So even though they look goofy and shit out there, you don't want to fuck with them, from what is said.
All right, well, here we are. I got some info for you.
And that was from the 1500s that they started hiring the Swiss Guard.
So I think this actually answers our question a little bit.
Okay.
As far as who owns the assets, who has the actual net worth and value and whatnot. Because if it was listed as so the #1 land possessor in the world is Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah.
Buckingham Palace, 6.1 billion acres of land worldwide.
That's crazy.
#2 is King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, holding hands in this picture with George W. Bush, ironically.
Yeah, there you go.
#3 is Pope Benedict. And that's the thing, the fact that it says Pope Benedict, not the Vatican. And it literally, you know what his background says? He's the Pope. ... That's his entire background. Where it shows these other people's background, it lists long, luxurious backgrounds. Yeah. What is his background? To be the 3rd largest landowner in the world?
Yeah.
He's the Pope.
Okay, so this is another thing.
So who owns that land now?
Exactly.
Francis?
I think it does get transferred to the next Pope, like all their assets, everything. But I don't get it. I don't get how I think it's more like, okay, so when we have, our title, the Lost Info, as you get more advanced in this society, in this world that we live in, you have to dig deeper, because now everything isn't even transparent. Now that we have the information and the possibility to go look it up, it's still not transparent. Just like Bill Gates and these vaccinations, and if you go back and find all of the all these little companies that are on, like Vanguard and all this other stuff, they all own the majority shares of the company. So they don't have to put their name on anything. They don't have to have any of the consequences when something happens. They just are the owners by majority shares. But then you go down to the CEO, whoever runs the company, they're the one that takes all of the publicity and what they've done wrong and have to, but really it's ran by the shareholders. They have meetings and the shareholders that own the majority tell the companies what they want them to do. And that's a problem that we have in this day is like, oh, I don't think that they're up to nothing nefarious. Well, if you look deeper, and then Bill Gates has his own company that he started. Now he's the majority shareholder of that other Vankier that is also a partner with Moderna and Pfizer. And you start going around this like little fucking merry-go-round of shareholding, and it's like there's definitely something going on.
Yeah, see, I take it since those first. Remember when we went in and I felt so ignorant because we're talking about the DuPonts and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and he was saying that he believed that they were 2 to 3 steps away from the top.
I agree. The more that I look into it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I do.
And here's the thing. I believe, though, that the Vatican is obviously as well as 2 to 3 levels away from the top.
I think it's really the Jesuits. To me, I want to say, and maybe let's just go out on a limb. Let's get crazy here. But like David, I don't know. A lot of people say it's Icke, but David Icke,
right?
He says that it's a reptilian race that has lorded all these different organizations and whatever else. So they could be at the top. Then you go to the Jesuits. Then you go to all these families, what we call the Illuminati. But if it's not that,
so my question with the lizards and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I've heard that theory. I've advocated parts of that theory. What exactly are like the reptilian race, if you will? What are their physical characteristics?
Well, and
do they look like you and I?
They can. So, well, this is supposed. There's also a lot of theories on that. But if you go back to a couple episodes or a couple case files prior, it was Alien Race 1 or 2. We still have to do the third one to finish that up. Jacob wasn't here with me at that time. I did those ones solo, but he'll probably do part 3 with me to finish it off. But in that, it talked about the reptilian race, which was there's like different levels of reptilians. The biggest ones, the ones that are in control, are from the constellation Draco, and basically they're like 12-foot winged lizards. And when they come to Earth, they can't necessarily interact on the level of full manipulations or not manipulation, but interaction as a human. So they have to manipulate. Now that they can take the form, and then like on TVs or like these political characters, supposedly they shapeshift on a vibration, but that concentration can be broke. Now, search it. You go on YouTube.
And that's where you'll see like these interviews when people are talking,
lizard eyes and
then,
shit,
right? Their gills will come across.
So, like, if they get caught off guard or something, basically
because they get nervous, they feel weird.
Yeah, the vibration changes and it shows a little bit.
Everything's
of that
based on a frequency, so we can only see and listen and feel things on a certain frequency.
Right.
So there's frequencies that are happening that we aren't even receptive to.
Well,
so they're just reaching us on that vibration that we're receptive to.
Yeah, and so that we can perceive them as the human that
as
they're
our
taking.
eyes want to perceive them.
Yeah,
they want us to see them.
But then again, like I said, in these videos, that's supposedly where you catch little glitches in the matrix, if you will, is because their vibration changes just slightly to where you see the slit eye or a little scaly face or something. That's on theories. Obviously, this is the thing on this podcast. I have my opinions. Everybody has their own. There's a global discussion, and when people say, "What do you think about flat Earth?" Well, I don't know. I mean, I like some of the points they make.
Oh man, isn't it bad when they start making points? You start really thinking like,
yeah, but I don't necessarily want to believe it. I want to believe that it's round. But can I say for 100% that it's round and there's space and there's 9 planets or 10 planets in our solar system?
What does it do for you if it's round?
Well, and the thing is, I can't verify that. So there's no way I can say I'm 100% right.
You know what I think it does? I think it makes you feel comfortable with the narrative that you've stuck with for 35 years.
Yeah, and what NASA
35 years.
And we all know NASA's liars. So
right.
Yeah.
one question, and this is going to be we're going to definitely do a case study on this. Antarctica.
Yeah, there's
That's
so
the biggest
much.
thing. Why are we not allowed?
There's so much.
The Vatican is allowed in Antarctica.
Yeah, there's so much in Antarctica. Like,
why are we not allowed on the entire continent?
Ole talked about it, or no, it wasn't Ole. It was Walter Bosley had mentioned when all the leaders had went down there recently, and he had said when he worked for the government, if you want to go back to that case file, Walter Bosley, he had talked about how what he was told in the early 90s, leading back to whenever, or the 60s, I think was the story, is now the timeline in 2020 of the same exact thing that he had been told by an insider then. So basically they're prolonging or just trying to keep the secret.
Right.
And then like revamping just enough to where people back off the thing is, like, if we want to get down to flat earth and Antarctica and whatever else, fucking get these rich people together that actually have a soul or want to find answers and do an expedition. Let's go over this fucking ice wall. Let's go. Let's whatever. Let's figure this shit out. Because it's there's a way to figure it out. If you have money, and we do, and I guess you have to get approval by the United Nations to go under the 60th parallel. Let's get enough people together, get that, do an expedition.
The question is why?
Yeah.
Do you need permission from the United Nations to go to Saudi Arabia? To go to Kingston, Jamaica? To go to Kenya? To go to North Korea? You could go to North Korea before you could go to Antarctica.
Yeah. Well, and get off the ship, yeah.
How does that make sense?
I don't know. That's the part that I get. I think that's what fuels.
Who is in control of it that we can't go there?
Well, I think that's what fuels these flat earthers is that it is so secretive and it is such
for no reason.
Well, you can have a quicker flight from Argentina over, but it's all no fly
zone. So you have to go around.
So and it's like, and then you have to get approval to go below on a ship. So it's like, all right, so okay, either maybe it's not flat earth, maybe it's just that there's a secret on Antarctica. But either way, this is what fuels the people's fucking anxiety on why the fuck is there so many lies.
I can't say that I believe in flat earth by any means.
I can't buy into it. They do have good points. There is a few that are good. I've seen a couple that make me think like I don't know how to explain that. I don't know. So I would have to say the only thing is I can't go to a flat earther and say I know 100% that this is a globe and we're not in a fucking Truman Show. I can't say that. I can't say 100%, so I won't. And when the flat earthers do that to, whatever you want to call them, sphere earthers, it's like when they get so caught in their ways, they're like, this is a lie. Everything's a lie. There's no Australia. Like, you can't prove that. So you can't really be that stern on it. Like, until we can do an expedition or whatever else, like, you have to go with just your belief and what we have to go on. But anyway, we're veering from the Vatican, I guess. I mean, a lot of things end up tying in together. So it's all part of these conspiracies because, I guess that's why they're conspiracies, because they all end up linking together. And so there is some kind of massive lie and deception of mankind. And somehow all this shit ties into it because they do it over and over and over. So let's go back to the Vatican. Just a little bit. Pope Pius II, Pope Pius II, I believe. They called him Hitler's Pope. I think he was the one that funded Nazi Germany through the Vatican's money. They ended up making a lot of money.
Which means that anybody in an American church that put money into the offering plate during X year and Y year helped fund Nazi Germany. Because all of that money is just like mob. Like the Vatican gets a piece of every single dollar.
Well, and that's another thing. And I think we'll go into that on another case file. But just like Prescott Bush and then Bush Sr., they were all basically involved in the Germany banks and Volkswagen and everything else.
Right.
So they all also continued that whole charade. So it's like, you can sit here and point the finger at just Hitler himself, but there was a lot that went into all that he did. Now, he was he was very smart as far as intellect, but he was a very evil individual for sure. That's without a doubt. But there was a lot that got him there, not just him. And basically propaganda, which we're learning in this world, is very destructive. And that was where it started. And that's where they took a lot of lessons on what propaganda can do to society as a whole. And when we listen to CNN and the news and all this and that, these fear tactics, that's exactly what they did. But back to the Vatican, there's 5 million visitors a year. There's no jail. There's one judge. So they have a high crime rate, obviously because tourists and whatever else getting away with whatever they can. In 2009, there was wiretaps on Angelo Balduce, an Italian engineer, a construction consultant of the Vatican, a member of I think it's Gentlemen of Your Holiness. It's like a group.
What is the organization of that?
Yeah, so basically let's see, where was I going with that? The altar. So basically it was like something with altar boys or whatever else, but Angelo was being wired for laundering money to the mafia on construction contracts with no work, fraud, and it somehow was like, I think the Gentleman of Your Holiness thing was some bullshit he was on the board of, and it was for like altar boys and whatever else for the Pope. But they found him laundering money for the mafia, doing all kinds of fraudulent stuff, which basically the whole Vatican knew about. And then it was a sex ring with the boys that were in this Gentleman of the Holiness. Search that to verify the whole thing. It's Angelo Balduce, Belduce. But he was basically, I think that was one of the very first concrete things they had of the sex ring stuff and the really nitty gritty of how dirty it was in the Vatican. And that was in 2009. But that was solid proof that there was a lot of shit going on. And I'm sure it happened long before that. That was just what they had on wiretap. In the 1980s, was only where the story of the investigation of pedophilia cases. So in the 80s is when they were really starting to investigate how many statistics and whatever else of pedophilia throughout Catholicism. The establishment, they estimated to have paid out billions in payoffs to pedophile cases, over 13,000 cases documented since 2004. In Dublin, just in Dublin alone, Ireland, 101 priests found guilty of pedophilia between 1975 and 2004.
That's typically where they ship them off to.
Yeah.
They send them out to Dublin, which is the weirdest, like obviously because you have like the Irish Catholic part of it. But that's what I've always heard, is that they'll send them to Dublin.
Well, it's mind blowing because if you just think about the number, this is just in Dublin alone that you have 101 cases of priests, with pedophilia that found guilty, not just in court, but found guilty of it. It's like, gosh damn.
Yeah, like at what point do
so in 1950 to 1970, there was 200 Dutch priests. In 2010 alone, 300 priests with cases of pedophilia in Germany. In 2014, active pedo and clergy, 8,000 priests. In 2014, active pedo cases in the clergy alone for Catholicism.
And every one of those cases, so the money that this comes from, they don't use the money for the legal team and the payoffs and all of those things for anything other than the money that comes from the churches.
Yeah.
Around the world.
Well, that's
they
the thing.
all pay up to Paulie. Well, they all give money back.
I think we should have talked about that too. So in the network, it's not that you're going to the Vatican and buying their coins and everything else.
Right.
So in Catholicism, all the churches,
all of them underneath the archdiocese,
they all funnel into there. So you got to understand, It's not just the
Every
Vatican.
church in every city, in every square inch of the world, it has a Catholic church that's attached to the diocese, all pay money to
our proud
the
sponsor,
Vatican.
our proud hope to be sponsor.
Hopefully, Crown Royal and Jack Daniels. They're going to compete.
Make it happen.
Is it Canadian whiskey or is it Tennessee Mash whiskey? Yeah. Like, we can figure this out. Let's do a Pepsi challenge.
Hey,
like,
yeah. Why don't you?
Buddy, here's the Coke. I have the Pepsi.
Oh,
Let's
man.
do a Pepsi challenge.
All right. Hey, so if you see this, if you're seeing this episode,
tag Crown Royal, tag Jack Daniels. Make sure you put your vote. Push the button. Yeah, we're going to have a vote.
Hey, go to the lostinfopodcast@gmail.com. That's the email for you guys. Do a vote. Coke and Jack, or Crown and Pepsi. That is the vote. So make sure you vote. Actually, if you go and vote and leave your name or a screen name that you would like, we will try to broadcast as many of those, depending on how many we get, who actually went into the vote, so that you can be put on one of the episodes. So I think that'd be a cool little incentive. So yeah, and that's the thing, is this money that's coming in there, like you said, this is all for, I mean, you're paying in at the basket every Sunday for legal cases.
Well, you're praising the Lord. You're paying off pedophilia relocations.
And some of them, yeah, they don't even get found guilty to go to jail.
No,
they're just straight paid off.
Or they'll just pay the family.
Yeah, paid off.
They'll relocate the preacher.
Yeah, somewhere else.
To a different church.
Yeah.
To victimize a different community.
It is super. I don't
understand.
To me, the irony of some of the stuff in religion, like I said, I'm not against if you're religious to the point of you believe in your God. It's the organized religion and it's these statistics that's like, how do we let this go this long? Like, obviously, they've done not a lot good other than prey on your beliefs. Now, you should be able to believe whatever you want. And,
well,
but
it would have to go into the argument back to what you were saying about who exactly is in power. Like, if it's these Jesuits that are in power in the world and they're a part of the actual top 3 levels.
Well, yeah, then that just means that they're taking advantage of,
which
is the most vulnerable part of people, is the beliefs, the belief system, what we're here for.
Well, the hope for tomorrow, like the belief that I'm going to die one day and I'm going to go see a guy in the clouds.
Yeah, the Golden City and all that stuff.
Right. Oh, yeah, right.
Now maybe there is, and they say that that's where the Nephilim come from. Is the
Have you ever done DMT before?
I have not.
Trust me,
I want
to. You will see heaven. You will see time and space.
I do. I definitely want to try that sometime. Actually, what would be really cool, I don't know if I will or not, but to do it on the episode would be something wild.
Anything's possible.
Anything is possible. Let's get these numbers up. Let's subscribe to YouTube channel and like. And if we get to 1,000 subscribers, I will do DMT on this podcast.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Get these subscriptions in. You heard what he said.
I'll do it. I'll do
us up
it.
to 1,000 subscribers, and he will do DMT on the broadcast, and then give an entire testimony, I guess you'd say, on his experience. Like, we'll watch the start to finish of the whole process. We need those subscriptions.
You get
YouTube and Facebook.
You get me to 2,000 subscribers, and I won't even edit it. I'll just do a straight live stream.
Hey, I'm all for it. Like, I'll definitely be here. Like, I'm just hoping you guys will be there with.
I've never done it, but I'm putting it out there. I'll just throw it out there because I've always been curious. I mean, I've obviously a lot of you people have probably listened to Joe Rogan, how much he talks about how much it changed his life. I'm curious to take a peek through the veil, and if we can get to that, I'll do it for you guys.
It is it's the most terrifying yet most exciting, it's everything. Jake, we've jumped out of planes together. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Bungee jumped out of planes together. We absolutely do. Face death, like the most exhilarating thing, yet the most terrifying thing in the world was sitting on my couch and blasting. It is,
and I could imagine only because even if you go back, and I've read the book DMT, the Spirit Molecule, which is Dr. McKenneth or whatever it is, and the testimonies of when the government was doing trials, it was basically 94% of the people had the same kind of
Oh, the same journey.
Yeah, the same.
You
So
go to the same place.
it's not like
you travel to the same planes of time and space.
And I mean,
but you never left.
But we gotta
ground.
understand, like, people look at everything as,
how do you not have a shared consciousness?
Yeah, well, that's
we
the thing.
shared same consciousness while we were unconscious.
Yeah, and the thing is, people look at drugs because our trustworthy government is deemed to be legal. But
drugs are bad.
Yeah.
Right?
But the thing is that civilizations have been doing them since the beginning of time in order to get insight on information on this world. Right. I mean, Native Americans.
How do you think that the shamans of 5,000 years ago, the Egyptians, like the Aztecs, the Mayans, like how do you think that these things were not created in the 60s and 70s? That's when they mass distributed the propaganda against these things.
Well, and that some of the you look at some of the old commercials. You look at some of the old commercials about marijuana. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
Reefer madness.
Yeah. Now, again, some people, maybe it's not for their mental capabilities, so we're not promoting everybody to do it.
I'm not saying to go do anything. I'm just saying not to believe anyone other than your own beliefs
and your own studies. So
your own information.
Be safe, be diligent in what you're researching before you do something, but you should still do whatever you want to do. And I do think that, the drug world in particular, quote unquote, is just a whole kind of charade of another fear tactic. It's, again, Native Americans did peyote, other natives, they had done ayahuasca, and it goes all the way back on getting insight on this world. Again, lost info. Obviously, we're not even close to the information that they had. They were way more advanced without these, concrete and metal cities that are magnificent, but we still are kind of dumb to our spiritual selves. So, advanced technology-wise, sure, but spiritually, we're getting broke down. And I think that a lot of people should work on that. And again, maybe, DMT is not the absolute first go-to to work on that. But if you get me to 1,000, I'll do it. You get me to 2,000, it'll be unedited on the subscribers.
Nice.
So another weird little fact is, based on the numbers and statistics alone, the Vatican City is the most unsafe place for your child. Just based on the amount of pedophilia. So that's pretty discouraging.
Yeah, so don't leave your child unattended anywhere in the Vatican City.
Yeah, and I think
I'm not going to put my kid on a leash unless we go to Rome.
Yeah, exactly. We'll save that one for the joke section there, because we'll save that one for the joke section coming up. 2003 to 2005 had a 300-page document of a gay mafia running the Vatican. And so this is the crazy thing. I was kind of blown away by this story, Pound Search this story. But there was a whole entire study and like research being done. And it's kind of like, I'm kind of still at a loss for words. But a gay mafia was running like all of the new priests getting certified to be distributed to the world, and they were running like the sex ring apparently, and all the money and everything else. But it was a gay mafia, which I've never heard of.
I didn't know that gays had a whole mafia.
Yeah, supposedly in 2003 to 2005, there's a 300-page document of the gay mafia running the Vatican. That's a pretty big document to have nothing on. Like, you're not making, I mean, you could, I suppose, but you're not making up 300 pages of nothing to support this claim. That's a lot of documentation of something odd of a gay mafia, which I just want to know what the mafia is like. Like, what?
Who's the boss? Is it really a gay mafia? Is everybody in that mafia gay? Like, how do you initiate them?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to prove it.
How do you make sure? How do you validate?
All right, so if you want to get in, you don't get jumped in. You get fucked in.
Right, like,
I don't know. It was weird to me because I was just like, what would a gay mafia even look like? Like, so I picture like, the 50s mafia pulling down in cars
versus the sharks.
The top hat, the top hats, and coming out with, overcoats and all this and that. And then like the gay mafia, like you'd have to wear, rainbow shorts or rainbow pistols or whatever. I don't know. Nothing against the gays. It's just that I've never heard of a mafia.
I'm glad they're continuing to organize them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah. So again, pound search that because I didn't even go into that whole 3-page or 300-page document, but supposedly there's a lot on it. And like I said, I think you'd have to have something in 300 pages that's worth even bringing this up from a study from 2 years.
Right.
So in 1939 to 1993, the Catholic Church was saying that babies died at birth, but they were sold for child trafficking. Now, this goes into, I want to say, let's see, it was 1987. Juan Luis Marino made it known that 300,000 babies were sold in adoption from the Catholic Church. So at this time, there was like supposedly this whole child trafficking, which now leads into probably the sex trade and whatever else as well. But we're looking at, the numbers now in the current times. I think this was actually 2017 or so, or 2018, is 800,000 kids a year go missing from the United States. And supposedly the majority of those go into child trafficking. Now, that's just the United States. Now you take around the world, those numbers are outlandish. But in the beginning, before it was like really known or like, one of the biggest problems we probably face, this was said to, from the Juan Luis Marino, I don't know, pound search his name, but in 1987 was said that 300,000 babies were sold in adoption from the Catholic Church, and that a lot of these, I think there's, and we'll get into this, I think it's coming up on the next page, but they were saying that a lot of these nuns, they would take broken women, bring them into like these nun things, get them pregnant,
drugs,
get them pregnant, and then not document the births and sell the babies.
Right.
And then the ones that didn't come out healthy, let me just get there because I think it's on the next page. But there was, it's coming up here. There was here it is right here. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg on the child trafficking part of it, which was, I believe it was.
Wouldn't you think that would be one of the easiest organizations in the world to child traffic would be the Vatican? They have private planes, they have private airports, they have private properties all around the world. Third largest property owner in the world. They literally are arguably the world's largest organization.
Yeah. And when I said that they have,
and their hands are in every single country
they don't
in the world.
They don't really have to have, the diplomacy of.
Oh, they have full reign. They don't need diplomacy. They literally have churches in every single country.
Well, I was going to say, they're already there. They don't have to infiltrate.
What do you need to be a diplomacy of?
So
we could literally, at the church at St. Anthony's over across town, we could walk them into there and they could be funneled all the way to somewhere in BFE Egypt.
I want to say that based on the numbers now, I think at the time, this is when it was really getting organized on the child trafficking. And the fact that it comes out of the Vatican or to do with the Vatican is pretty sick. This is, I don't know if they're on the property of the Vatican, but they were run by them. But this is just tip of the iceberg. In 1925 to 1961, you're going to have to pound search it because I got this.
The Catholic orphanages and whatnot?
Yeah, it was called like Boise St. Mary's Children Orphanage or whatever. But go ahead and look that up. They housed 200 children and 100 mothers at any given time. Or no. There was 200 children and 100 mothers in the septic tank found in, okay. They housed 200 children and 100 mothers. In the septic tank, they found 796 infant babies' bones and whatever else when they actually cleared that out later on down the road. And that was from a place where they took in children and mothers to make them safe and then turn basically the single women into nuns. got them pregnant, undocumented births, ones that they didn't. 796 bodies were found in that septic tank when they cleaned that all up.
And guess who was responsible? No one.
Yeah.
No one took responsibility.
Well, the Vatican, but
nobody was held. Nobody was held responsible.
Right.
You could allege that the Vatican was responsible.
Go ahead and pound search the babies in the septic tank.
You can allege that, but nobody was held responsible. So if you're not held responsible, then
because I don't know if it's Boise St. Mary's or whatever, it's crammed up in the writing on this. These were notes from a little while ago. So, but yeah, go ahead and pound search that. Find that information because that was one of the stories. When you read the whole article, you're like, oh my God, that's just sick. It's disgusting. But it was a simple business plan that was a network of making young women, quote unquote nuns and take their babies. Lots of probability in being able to sell them around the world. And the nuns just kept making more babies, a lot of them undocumented, and then they would just sell them in the black market. And so even if they got out of that world or escaped that world, they still had nowhere to go because they weren't even legally or documented to be even on this planet. So pretty fucked up. Super fucked up. The Vatican went to and so it was in 1929, like I had said, we'll get to it in the notes. But the Vatican had went to Mussolini and made a deal in 1929 to make themselves separate. And at the time, I think Mussolini was, and this is my opinion, not really documented in a way that you could track it as proof or fact. But I think that he was intimidated by Hitler. And
absolutely intimidated.
And then
that's why he tried to join sides.
Yeah, well, no, I mean that part's proven.
Yeah.
But the Vatican, I think, was supporting Hitler. And so when the Vatican went to Mussolini, they kind of used Hitler as
leverage.
Yeah, and said
like, look, I'm backing him.
Yeah.
So we're gonna back him, or you can back him,
or you can let us be separate and be our own country.
Right.
And that's basically what happened. So they broke off and created their own country, and then that was basically where they didn't have to follow the laws of Italy and the rules, and then they were their own state and country, and they get to basically alter the rules.
Like, even at that point though, like which is so many hundreds of years behind when they actually like gained power. Like the Vatican gained power in literally in the 3-digit world of time. You know, we're in the thousands of years at this point.
Yeah,
they garnished power in like the 300 to 400 to 500 year.
I think it was more or less
like 300 to 500 AD. Like the council.
Well, it said that they were hired.
It was in 300 and some AD. I was like, you can pound search that, but that was like I want to say it's 309 AD. That the Council of Constantine, where they actually decided that Jesus was going to be God and blah blah blah.
Right.
But the Vatican itself. They were already. It was already.
Well, they were hiring the Swiss Guard in the 1500s, so for protection.
That's what I mean. So we're talking about hundreds of years.
They were already there. I think it was more or less the timing of opportunity to say this is when we can break off and make ourselves solely dependent on us, and we don't have to follow the laws of Italy.
But that's the crazy thing, though, is that you're saying follow the laws of Italy, yet the Vatican controlled.
Well, I think it was more or less
Italy, though. Like, I
think it was more for the rest of the world. Like on documents, the laws that Italy wrote
to separate themselves from church and state.
Yeah, because I think the Vatican was basically trampling all those laws many times, and they probably were saying, "Hey, based on Italy,
how are you guys still good people if you're just trampling on the laws?"
If you're doing this,
well, we're just not a part of that country.
Yeah, that's what I think. It was like opportunity says, "Hey, fuck it." Now we don't. Now we can make our own rules and do whatever we want, and we don't have to just stomp on them and then have to explain why. We just do whatever we want. So I think it was just more or less timing and opportunity that they just said, "Hey, Mussolini, if you don't let us break free, Hitler's going to come in and take your whole country. What do you want to do? All right, break free. Fuck you. Bye." That's kind of what I think. So the Vatican hired someone named Bernardo Nagata. He was the first director of the Holy See. He started moving money in offshore accounts and buying foreign real estate. This was at the time, I believe in World War II, where they started realizing the amount of money. Go ahead and pound search that guy, Bernardo Nagata. But he was the one that they were really realizing how much the Vatican was pushing money around the world and doing things as far as funding the Nazi Germany, using that money that they were creating all these, tanks and everything else, and coming back and getting all that money. And then even at the end of World War II, it was documented that the Vatican spent a ton of money and got a lot of assets in return. And it was like, if you go and watch Nazi Germany or whatever else, that little document on the History Channel, it talks about all these hordes of treasures and paintings and everything else.
Oh, beyond that, do you realize? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and so I think that was a big exchange, but they got 10,000 officers out of Germany to Venezuela.
That's where I was going with my statement is that it was the number of false documents that were procured by Nazi officers directly through the Vatican, that it is 1,000% proven that the only place they got these documents were from the Vatican. They had to get to Rome and get shipped out of here. Like, the fact that we still support them.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it didn't say who. Obviously, we're not going to know who, but it was said.
Who in the Vatican to procure these documents?
Well, and this thing, it was said that these weren't just soldiers. These weren't just like.
Oh no, these were officers.
These were the top brass,
upper echelon.
Yeah.
Of these people,
and it was 10,000 of them that the Vatican got out alone.
Beyond what you got themselves out.
Yeah, and that doesn't even mention the other ones that escaped and the other ones.
There's actually a documentary right now called "The Devil Next Door."
Go ahead and pound search.
It's on Netflix. It's about Ivan. I want to say Ivan the Terrible, but it was about a German officer in the Tribeca, Poland concentration camp, where he controlled the gas chambers. Yeah, this was the man that gassed thousands of Jews every single day. He was living in Ohio.
Yeah.
And you know how he got there?
Okay.
Through the Vatican. He has documents through the Vatican.
Okay, and that's, so you go ahead and pound search that. That's another thing that you're going to want to look up.
The Devil Next Door on Netflix. I'm not going to reveal I'm not going to give you any spoiler alerts. It's about a 4-part series about.
Actually, I'm going to go and watch that now.
Please watch it.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about this later tonight.
Yeah,
I promise you.
I'm going to go watch that.
It's going to blow your mind.
So that's another thing, is so that you guys can just be aware at the time of all this, like, I mean, it was chaos, really. World War II, end of World War II, chaos. But go ahead and we'll double up on the pound search it. But go ahead and look it up. But Project Paperclip brought all these sick fucks back to the United States to work on science projects.
Where do you think NASA
rockets,
came from? NASA. Yeah. How do you think the NASA scientists, the nuclear scientists,
so there's a
Robert Oppenheimer.
There's a guy.
Where did Oppenheimer come from?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Oppenheimer was a Nazi.
I can't remember the name of the guy that they went. He was supposed
to be. The Manhattan Project was led by former Nazis.
Well, exactly. And this guy that they went and found that didn't want to come to the United States, he said he refused. And again, we'll get to an episode and I'll have his name for you. But he refused to come to the United States on Project Paperclip, and they said, after all the war crimes, since you're not going to give us your knowledge. He was the guy that was basically like using fucking lizard arms to people.
Right.
And like doing weird experiments. But as far as the biological knowledge of being able to do weird shit, he said, I don't want to be in Project Paperclip. I don't want to come to the United States. So we said, well, we're going to have to come and get you and put you on trial just to be murdered or to be killed.
Just a document.
And so when they came there, he said, and this is quote unquote from a book, that his statement was, you need my knowledge from science that I've done that you're not willing to do, that you will not kill me. And if you want any of it, you're going to pay me, and gave the United States government a number and said, I'm going to live right here and you're not going to do a damn thing but pay me.
You're not going to do anything but keep me on the payroll. And make sure that I stay paid.
And the United States government paid it. And they paid it.
Right.
No. Now, you can pound search that story, but when we get on that case file, I'll give you his name because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But I was like, dude, that's how deep we were willing to go for the MK Ultra project, all this other fucking mind control, studies of biological weapons, all this kind of artificial human beings or tied in with other creatures. I mean, even on that island that's up there, I think it's, what's that island that where they were doing all those fucking studies of different chemical things and animals and all kinds of shit. It's off, I think it's off the coast of New Jersey or something. I'll search that too, but it's not, I can't remember what the island's called. But it's like fucking basically Dr. Moreau, like fucking crazy.
I was about to jump into the island.
Yeah, it's like it's exactly kind of like
him off.
Well, it's where the Lyme disease came from, because right off that coast,
where we created.
Yeah, it was right off the coast is where that infected, and it was basically caused on this island that they were doing studies with animals and chemicals and biological studies and crossbreeding and all kinds of weird shit. There's also a lot of crazy stories that actually probably will be a topic in the future, because there was one where an insider of a team, a SEAL team kind of guy, had to go and capture this creature that got released. It ran to the far side of the island, and it literally hid in the lighthouse. And this thing was like half fucking creature, half human. And the guy said when the team broke in the door, that they had lights on their guns, shine in the eye, and the creature, he said, you could see the fear in the creature looked crazy. He said it was just scary to look at. But he said when you looked in his eyes and it was trapped with nowhere else to go, it just, you could see the fear, the genuine fear. Like it didn't have a choice but to be what they made it. It just wanted to try to get free. So it had human, like understanding of what was happening, not just an animal running wild or a deer caught in the headlights. You could just see that it was like, what am I supposed to do? You made me. And so that his story is pretty fucking wild. I'll try to find that one for you and put it on this case file. That one's going to come up here in the future, because that one was a very interesting case. And that island is. And they were actually talking about they were going to shut this island down because there's a lot of journalists that were trying to go out to it or try to film it and sneak on. And they were talking that, and I don't know if this has happened or not. You can pound search that too, but they were going to move it to the middle of Missouri, this research center. I said, what better way to put it in the Midwest, in the middle of the United States? Fucking hybrid creatures. Seems like a great idea. So that part, I don't know. But we'll go on that case file and we'll let you know about it in the future. Make sure that you stay updated, subscribe to YouTube. In 1933, they made a deal with Hitler that all the German Catholics would pay 8% to 10% of wages to the Vatican, and that they would back him to take power. So that was to avoid the wrath of Hitler. So basically, that was, again, another dealings that they did during the World War II, and again, just basically siphoning money as if they weren't already doing that, finding other ways to siphon money into the Vatican. So some conspiracies of the Vatican, these ones go more on just the real conspiracy side of things. The Vatican is actually a satanic domain, and they used it as a religion as for ultimate control. So it was basically, they used Catholicism as a vessel to promote satanic rituals and ideology.
Well, wouldn't that be, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist?
It would make sense though.
Wouldn't that be literally where like the most satanic stuff would take place? It's inside the home of the other half of it, quote unquote.
Well, and
like we're talking about, this organization is the #1 trafficker of children.
Yeah.
The #1 proprietor of the pedophilia. Not all the pedophilia, but the #1 contributor to pedophilia.
Yeah.
The #1 organization for murder, torture over the course of thousands of years.
Yeah.
So why in the world would it be so off track that these are the same people that are lizard people eating the glands out of little children's brains and worshiping satanic beliefs Because honestly, if you think about Satan, what does Satan promise? I'm not trying to let me give this disclaimer.
You're getting in there.
Okay, so I was raised heavily in the church, and I believe in many different things. I do not believe personally that there's a little man in a cloud, nor do I believe that there's a little horned guy in the center of the earth. With that,
he wouldn't be a man.
Well, a deity, if you will.
There you go.
But I don't believe he's up there with a checklist saying right or wrong. Now, I believe there's good and evil. I believe all those things. Now, if you are telling me that I'm in control of the world, and I'm in control of the world.
Are you talking if there was the lizard people running it? Or just any kind of
anything
elites that were at the top?
Elites gonna run the world. Okay. And we're gonna run the world, and we're gonna do it we can't do it through money and power because that's too obvious. So we're gonna do it through religion and hope. Right?
Honestly, that's the route I would take.
Absolutely.
If I was evil and that's what I wanted, I would infiltrate people's hopes.
Through giving you hope.
Yeah.
Because literally what I'm saying is do good and maybe you'll make it to the promised land. A promised land that's not on earth. Well, it's somewhere in the sky.
But that's the thing is if you think about it, you play on the hopes. So in the meanwhile,
lottery.
Well, I mean, it's people's biggest weakness is that we want to know why we're here. And so, and if we want to understand God, I believe in a God. I just kind of think it's different.
What kind of God do you believe in?
I think it's a female entity, like a being that's female by like.
Do you think it has a vagina?
No. Just description of
what a female is.
No, I mean like compassion and empathy.
Well, that's not a
empathy. I know, but like empathy of and like the what I'm trying to say.
Do you think it's an actual physical being?
No. I believe it can take a form of physical being if it wanted to. Well, obviously, if it's a creator.
I think you're taking a physical being right now.
Well, I think as a creator, you could do, you'd have to be able to do whatever the fuck you wanted in your creation.
As a creator, not to get too far off track, but it's part of the Vatican. That's religion. That's part of creation. Sure. So do you believe that this entity went from like a clean slate in the middle of the universe and said, now there's a planet.
No,
and now there's like fish,
I can't say that because so that's my biggest question. So as far as everything I've studied and everything I revert back to, there's two things. One is two particles came out of a black void and collided and made a big bang. So
who created the black void?
Who created those two particles?
That were in the void.
So
was that entity already there? Did she put those in the void?
That's without God. That's without God.
Well, nothing can happen without God.
No.
If God is the creator, I'm
playing devil's advocate. I'm going both sides. One is that everything's evolution, but two particles came from nothing and collided, made a big bang. The other side is that this magnificent being
sat there with his paintbrush
and created everything from a black void. Now, again, the part that locks me into a deadlock is either way you go, something came from nothing, and that's like, well,
arguably something came from nothing, and you're absolutely right, and that is the most troubling part.
Well, I mean, if you like all my other stories, like if you want to talk about, okay, there's part evolution and part God, and whatever, and you try to explain them any way you can, and your theories that you have, and other people's theories that they have. Regardless, when you get back to the essence and the very beginning, the very basics. Either two particles came from nothing or a God came from nothing. So something came from nothing, which is unexplainable in any way we have possible, and not even really, not even in imagination, because something out of a void created, and that's the crazy thing is that if you're living and you're listening to this, or you're skydiving, or you're doing something, you know that whether this is a computer simulation, there is something of your conscience that has its own ability to think and react. So you came from nothing, essentially. And how in the fuck is that possible? I don't know. But that's where you come back. Either way you go, evolution or religion, or mix the two, you still have something that came from nothing that created what we're in. And it's like, I'm still blown away.
So do you believe multiple? This again.
Well, now it could be a matrix, a simulation created by a computer programmer.
I would argue that was in a person.
That was in a computer simulation created by another programmer. That was created by. So, yeah.
So here's my question.
That still would have to come from something.
Do you think then that because obviously there's multiple galaxies,
Yeah.
Right? Within our universe.
I would, yeah.
Right?
Yep. I actually think there's multiple universes, but
Well, there is, in my opinion, as well.
in my opinion, yeah.
But there's multiple galaxies within our
and
universe.
Dimensions.
Well, we're in the Andromeda galaxy, or we're in the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah. Galaxies are proven.
Right, but then we also have the Andromeda galaxy. That's a proven galaxy that has different planets, different shapes, different all of that.
Well, we still have to really rely on NASA.
Here's the thing. We do. Here's the thing. You've seen pictures. We're gonna get off and I'm gonna get back to my point. But you've seen pictures of the Milky Way galaxy.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
They're all fake. Do you know why? We don't have the technology to go outside of our galaxy and take a picture looking in, Jacob. How did we get the picture?
That's where I'm at.
How did we get the picture? We don't have the technology to leave our galaxy to turn around. Watch this. I'm going to leave the podcast. I'm going to take a picture from out here looking in, except for I can't leave our galaxy. So how in the world did we get a picture from outside the car if we've never even realized how big our car was to find where the door was to leave the car?
Or that we even have the child locks on and we can't get out.
It's impossible.
Well,
so number one, that's but here's my question.
Okay, well, no, I was going to say on the Hubble. I was going to interrupt you real quick on the Hubble. It would still have
the Hubble's on Earth.
Well,
you're talking about the one that's like
out there. Yeah, the one that's out there. Right, but that one's not outside our galaxy. Now I could take pictures of other galaxies.
Outside of our galaxy.
But not back at our own.
But there's nothing to reflect back in.
That's where I'm at, dude. There's a lot of questions
right.
there.
Also, your pictures that you're seeing are all fake because the colorful, it's absolute darkness out there. Space is absolute blackness. Okay?
Yeah.
So the pictures that you're seeing with these bright blue splashes of color,
well, that's right.
And green and reds, you know what that is? That all they're doing is they're indicating gases. So the massive the Hubble telescope will actually will quantify the gases in that area and take a picture.
Well, I was gonna say then they just highlight it.
Well, they attach like red is radon.
Yeah.
Green is oxygen. Like,
see,
so it's not actually what it looks like out there. It's just blackness. But here's my question.
That's where I'm at too.
Here's my question.
I don't trust NASA.
If we believe in a God,
I wouldn't trust NASA.
Oh, NASA's admitted to being fake. But if we believe in a God, does every universe and every galaxy have the same God, or is it just on Earth?
I would say that this is just my opinion. I believe that my God that I've talked to, and I don't know, maybe it was something else that gave me an answer, but it's gave me an answer. There's 2 times in my life that I'm like,
do you know who gave that answer?
I don't, but
you do.
My God, God,
yourself, God.
Yeah,
you are God.
No, I couldn't create this.
No,
I couldn't create
these
answers.
You did.
Well, maybe, but so anyway, my opinion is that this God, and if there was one ultimate God that created everything, that they have demigods that run those universes. Just like
what I'm saying is that you're telling me you believe that there's multiverses.
Yeah.
Which means that there are thousands or millions potentially of galaxies.
Yes.
Did one God create all of those?
I look at it like this. If you were a painter and you were great, you wouldn't paint one painting and stop. You would keep going. So if you
but if you created one painting, if you were these painters though, you wouldn't have, as an artist, you wouldn't have smaller artists over here doing your work for you.
Yeah, I mean, like if you got big enough to where you were like, let's just say you were doing.
Basically what you're saying is God is the Vatican. So the Pope is so big that he has the cardinals.
Well, I don't know.
He has the bishops.
Well, first of all, I don't know. I don't know
and the pastor.
Well, I don't know that.
So God has ordained the Vatican.
Well, I don't know. I don't know the God. Well,
it's tied all in together. Let's just throw it out the window.
I don't even know that the Pope is really in control.
It's actually a part of God.
Well, I don't know he's even in control of anything. I think that they're just kind of using.
Well, he's as in control as the president is.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely
his hand is on the button. More nefarious, whether or not like he gets.
I don't know. I mean, I'm tied up because I do believe that there is a female characteristic.
But what is
God?
Her extent?
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Did she just create Earth? Did she create our solar system, our galaxy?
I think she created
our universe. Created all the multiverses, through like the different levels of dimension.
But the thing is, like, we're all one, so we all like. If you're like, we're looking at it as in like me and you thinking, like me and you think a lot alike. We'll connect on a lot of things and say things at the same time, right?
We have synergy,
right?
Because we have a shared.
But now let's take that up a notch on the amount of using the full capacity of consciousness and connecting, and the one. And I do believe it's only one source of love, and we all come from the same thing. Is that when your demigods come from you, like they're really acting on your nature, like without having to talk to you or see you.
So angels.
Yeah, but like they're gods as far as like making. Like I think that there was a creator, a main creator, and then there's creators within the.
Is that main creator still around?
Yeah.
Then why, if they're the all-seeing, all-knowing, all-doing, and they created trillions of universes, why would you need to hire part-time help?
I don't think it's part-time help. I think it's just a fractal of them. So like, but they're where the buck leaves is like, Lucifer getting kicked out, or the fallen angels, is that they went too far creating the manipulation and the power on the world.
Here's the thing though, that has to do with Earth. Speaking of Lucifer is just Earth.
But we don't know. We don't know that yet. But we don't know.
Well, we're talking about that's a couple 100-year-old book.
Right. No, but I think they've done it to other planets.
So you think that this was this is something that they tried out other places?
I think that they destroyed other places, and they're backed from other things I read. They're backed into a corner of this galaxy, basically taking over the last planets that they can basically manipulate with greed and power and control in the physical realm.
Right. Okay.
And so they're like backed into a corner trying to rebuild their forces any way they can, because they can't fight the power of love and one and unity. Is that overall, once we become more intellectual, or we rise to another level, or the great awakening, that we'll realize like, material shit, greed and everything else doesn't take a factor in reality as far as what is possible and what is supposed to be. And so when we get to that point, all that will fade away. And again, they'll have to jump to another planet unless they manipulate us enough to where we destroy ourselves.
But why would they have to do that? Because they have.
Well, I think they were stripped of the power of creation from the one creator. And so now they can only use manipulation, not creation. Because creation can come from nothing. And you could create just as well.
But why would you, as the creator, if I was the creator and I said, I'm going to do all of this, and then I put these people in power, or these demigods in power, and they failed.
Yeah.
Right. And then I said, I'm just going to strip them of their power and leave them to their devices. Why wouldn't I just say they disappear?
Poof, be gone. Yeah.
And then
well, that's a question I can't answer, because I've thought about that one many times. Many times.
Like, that's what I was like, why would I why I don't personally believe? I was raised heavily in the church. I was studying theology the whole nine. But do you know why I personally don't believe? Child leukemia. There's no way in this world that you're going to sell me on a compassionate God, a compassionate, all-knowing God. But children are born literally to suffer and die.
I'm going to have to agree. That also is a question that has went through my head many times in my life, is that even starvation,
right?
Even in third world countries.
They were testing the parents. They were testing the faith. So you're telling me that you made this child, this innocent child, suffer
now hold on. I will play the double advocate on this, because let's just say hypothetically that these cancers or whatever was created by man's chemicals.
He only gave you guys. I learned from you.
Yeah,
I was made in the image of God.
Starvation.
But I was made in the image of God. So if I was made in the image of God, you know what the Bible told me?
Well,
plagues, famine.
Yeah. Well, and the
murder.
thing is, I would also say is, why would you let us be born with original sin and continue to destroy ourselves in the evilness that we do without interfering?
And the question is how? Not why.
Now,
no, Jake. How are we born with original sin?
Yeah.
If we are made in God's image.
I don't know that we're born with original sin.
If I believe we are. I think you're born. You're born. We're absolutely.
We're all sin.
But what I'm saying is, if we were created in God's image,
right?
Then how are we sinful?
Well, true. That is a good point. I think it's more or less it was kind of, now the flood did happen, whether it was by God or whatever. We know in history that there was a massive flood on this earth.
That's happened in countless religions.
Yeah, no, it's not just God, but I'm just saying, let's just say that he was trying to wipe off the Watchers, which were the angels that came down and made the Nephilim and the giants and whatever else, and it went amok, and he was trying to wash it all off and clean and whatever else. Now,
why would you just snap?
But my whole point is that why would you start over on the same fucking process and let us all suffer? Other than maybe it's an experiment to see where we go, if we can find our way back to the one. I don't know.
What's the point?
Well, I don't know. I think it's what's
the goal?
I would have to say,
the objective?
See, that's where I struggle with, because I even have depression on it sometimes, because I'm thinking, like, what is the point of all this if we can't even get our own act together on this planet between race, religion,
do you really
sex?
Think that over the last 15,000 years of quote unquote conscious man, educated man, if you will, like we're talking about, they had documented history on stone tablets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 15,000 years ago. So this is out of the cave. This is in stone tablets. So we've had educated man for 15,000 plus years. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And we can't even get the simple shit right.
We are no farther along than we were. What are we doing? We have fire in our basement that warms our cave. And that's all we are.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We go out, we kill an animal, we put it over fire, we eat it, we have fire inside of our cave. We're literally doing, we have wheels underneath our carriage. We're doing the same thing we did at the beginning of the earliest stages of man.
Ask Cain, because he came from outside. Hey,
my personal belief, before I will ever believe that there is one individual, entity, energy, whatever in the sky, or anywhere, I would believe that a meteorite, whether or not it was planned or happened, landed on Earth, and it had some sort of biology on it, hit the water, millions and millions of years later. This is what happened. And it's a documented
but again,
we're finding not alien DNA, but uncharted DNA.
And again,
on meteorites that hit Earth still today.
But if you come in from that point of view, you still have to take in something.
Who put the DNA right? I understand.
It's hard.
I agree, and that's what argument is like. Who put it there to begin with?
All right. That part, it makes for a hard question, even to me. Like, I believe that there is a God because I've talked to him and I've had answers. So whether it was me answering myself, I don't know. I believe that there was something. Now, do I believe in organized religion and the religion in general? No. But I don't criticize anybody that does. Just do it smartly. Don't just blindly follow somebody into the abyss. So, use your mind, study things, be diligent, search things, go look things up, find the lost info, and do it for yourself. Now, a lot of these questions are hard because nobody can answer them. So it's just, they're hypotheticals for everybody. And in this global discussion on the Lost Info podcast, I mean, at the end of the day, you make your own conclusion, but you have to do everything you can to get to that conclusion, not just say, I believe this. Why? I don't know. I just do. That doesn't work. You have to go in.
It'll work for you. It'll work for you. But at the very least, if you're going to stand on, you can't say they should. But I personally believe they should.
Well, I mean,
they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
That is your freedom. If you're going to try to give information to someone,
or be in a global discussion,
potentially influence someone's opinion, even, then I would definitely advocate having multiple sources of information, multiple leads of information, and not just listening to two weirdos on a podcast.
Well, and don't be overwhelmed because, me and Jacob, we agree on a lot of things, but me and him talking, I want to be able to answer his questions. However, I can't because there's nothing, I don't know.
And that's what we need you guys for.
But the thing is, like, if we talk about it more like this, me and him one-on-one, and then you guys listening, but then if you guys call, chime in, the lostinfopodcast@gmail.com, tell your side of it. If when we get call-ins or whatever and bring a guest on to talk about what they think, it all helps, because the more we talk
Absolutely.
about it, the more we kind of get an understanding from other perspectives, and we gather a better narrative, gather more lost info, and then we can say, at least we know that we started here. Then we expand out once we get past the war and the fucking retarded shit that humans do to each other, and start traveling the universe and start figuring out answers. That's where we have to go. And instead, we're trapped on this fucking rock, beating each other up and making each other feel bad because of their skin color, their race, their sex. And that ain't right, because we don't have time for that. We have time. What we have time for in our short spans of 80, maybe 80 years on an average, is to go fucking figure out answers. So let's start getting together with all these other countries, you know, get on with Elon Musk, get this shit together, or these, you know, whatever expeditions paid for, and start searching for these answers, because that's the only thing we really have in this short lifespan. Now we're here, and I believe that this is going to do justice in the end, that we have these global discussions, but just in our debates, those are a lot of questions that you should think about, whether you have the answer for or not. I think that everybody should think about where we came from, or why we came here, or what we're doing, or what the purpose is, and what you believe the purpose is. And then when we come together and talk about it, it gets us a lot farther along, for sure, I believe. So the Vatican, we're going to end this on this last little note here, and then get off the fence. The Vatican tried to use Nazi Germany to control the world, is the other conspiracy theory, by the way, and realized that they were going to lose, sided with the winners, and ultimately used the Western world, Army of the United States, and the financial part of the world, which was London at the time, and the spiritual of the Vatican to carry out their agendas. And Edgar Mitchell is a name that you should look up with that. John Podesta, another name you should look up with that. The dragon and the Draco are also other things. Now, I didn't go into a ton of things with this, but Project Lucifer is another conspiracy theory. Pound search that. And Lucifer 2, an observatory in Tucson, Arizona. Seems kind of weird to name it.
It's called Lucifer 2?
Yeah, pound search that. And that really seems kind of weird, that you're looking outside from this planet and you're calling it Lucifer 2. Is like, that seems like it's very much destructive, and that it just
sounds a little bit sketchy that they would even like
go that route. Yeah,
nobody in the boardroom said that's not a good answer. That's not a good thing.
That's not a good name. Yeah,
we probably shouldn't call it the devil.
Exactly. That's what I thought too.
But at the same time, that goes into what Oli was talking about that karmatic retail, hiding in plain sight, giving you it right in front of your face, telling you, look, we're putting all this cobalt in your cell phone, but you're okay with having child slavery if you own a cell phone. Yeah. And we're telling you that we're doing it. We're calling it the devil.
Yeah. Like, we're gonna on that note, and I get worked up too. Obviously, Jacob is really worked up at the last part on this, but it is frustrating.
The things I only say though have started to
resonate.
They resonate. Absolutely, perfect word. Okay. Because what he's saying like every day, I'll hear something and I'm like, damn, that kind of falls into place. And then I'll hear something else and I'm like, shit. It's just so many. I'm still downloading.
Yeah. So part one, part two of Oli Demigod. Part two was with Cody, ex-CIA. That's case file 24 or 25. Case file 24 was with Oli's interview solely, and that one is a gem. So you should definitely look into that. With that, we are going to take a quick break to gather ourselves, go to the bathroom, whatever we got to do, and we'll be right back.
Yes.
All right, Dan, we're back. All right, we're going to get off the fence. We're going to get off the fence real quick on this topic. Jake too, why don't you go ahead and tell me, you're off the fence, what you think the Vatican is doing and what they're in a shorter, because we kind of went on a lot of it.
As expedited as possible.
Yeah,
I believe, and no disrespect to anybody's personal beliefs, I believe that the Vatican is at the nucleus of the problem on earth as far as power, control, deception, death, money, all of the ingredients literally to help people stay down. You're talking about the people that orchestrate one of the biggest financial organizations in the world, and they tote themselves on how compassionate they are, yet 25% of the world goes hungry every night. And these churches
have the possibility of helping.
They don't house homeless people. Like there's a Catholic church every 4 square blocks. Why aren't they full of homeless people at night?
Yeah, I would agree.
Why aren't they taking the money from this multi-billion-dollar organization and opening up countless homeless shelters across the world?
Or just to sleep on the pews at night.
Sleep on the pews.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
I guarantee a homeless person would love that.
It's a hell of a lot better than sleeping in knee-deep snow in the middle of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
I would agree.
So I believe that.
And they're tax exempt.
Tax exempt is huge. Well, you know why they're tax exempt? Because they have the powers that be, church and state separated. The powers that be don't need them to be, which is why they're tax exempt in America, they're tax exempt in Africa, they're tax exempt in Europe, they're tax exempt in South America, which makes no sense on how they follow none of the country's taxes that they're in, except for the country that they're from, even though they created their own country within a country to create their own rules to govern other countries.
Yeah.
So I guess that
nefarious is where you're going.
The captain nefarious, like absolutely.
Okay,
so that's where they are.
I'm gonna expedite mine real quick too, off the fence. I think that originally the Vatican, again, the Pope was given the right hand of God and whatever to rule on this planet based on the Bible, blah, blah, blah. I think that they were infiltrated personally by the Jesuits, which might have came from a Jewish order, which also killed the guy that said, hey, I'm coming to save the world. I'm the son of God. And we decided, hey, you didn't do anything wrong, but you said that. So fuck you. We're going to kill you. That seems really fucked up. But they came in and and again, it might correlate with the conspiracy of the evil using Catholicism being the biggest religion at the time in order to carry out their stuff. Because as Jacob said, there is a lot of, there's more than a lot. There's just too much nefarious stuff that has happened in it and not enough good. I mean, the good that comes out of it is like literally your little church in your city that you go and you connect with the community in that church. But it's not really necessarily the beliefs. It's about you going somewhere to, praise your God, which is good. But then like, you're also contributing to a smaller portion that goes up the chain back to the Vatican, giving all this money, providing money to get all these pedophilia priests out of trouble, all this and that, the Crusades, the funding of Germany and Nazi Germany, Hitler, and so we didn't even read some of the bank stuff. I forgot about some of the bank things.
The fact that the Vatican separated themselves, their banking institution was created during World War II.
Yeah, I'm just going to cut tons of scandals. The banking during World War II. The bank has lots of ties to the mob, a lot of mafia money. You touched on laundering.
The gay mafia as well as the Cosa Nostra mafia.
Yeah, but regular mafia too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then the purchase of 900 million of illegal bonds in 1970 in collaboration with the mafia. So there was a whole bond scandal that they were purchased 900 million. So and this is back when in the 1970s, almost $1 billion in bonds. Yeah,
the currency exchange from 1970
for the mafia
to 2021, 51 years later.
Yeah, come on. So you get
900 million. I would argue, go ahead and pound search it. I would argue 900 million in 1970 is worth 1.7 billion
minimum. And then in 2013, priests were arrested trying to smuggle millions of euros from the mob. Also, again, money laundering. Yeah, so a lot of money laundering.
Priests, where were these priests located? Were they from Rome or Italy?
It didn't say. Well, if it did, pound search it. But in 2013, there was a ton of priests, so maybe all over.
So an orchestrated, like a network of priests that were funneling money
and smuggling millions of euros to the mob.
So laundering money. They were laundering money.
Laundering, but on a
through the church for the mob, though.
But on a massive scale.
Right.
Yes.
Through the, so basically, the mafia would go put the money in the church's offering plate, and then the money would make its way back to the mafia.
And so a lot of the banking of the Vatican, and
since it's tax free, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not even regular. The tax, like the government wouldn't even know what money they're bringing.
So we're adding a lot of this in before the off the fence, but they were the largest shareholder in the Italian bank that laundered all the money for the mafia as well. Again, pound search, all that, but some off the fence is that it is used as a vessel to maybe manipulate or create chaos and either carry out agenda for elites on this world, or if you want to go to the extreme on David Icke or David Icke, however you want to pronounce his last name, you're going to the point of it's nefarious, however you look at it, what they've done on this planet since they've been in power, and way before they were their own country, but even since they've been their own country, have done a lot of destruction on this planet. So I would have to think that it's not for good, and it's not based on the beliefs of people that love their God and want to be a Catholic for the real purposes, but to fund their agendas, and they just take advantage of you and your basic hometown church, and all that gets funneled up to them to do whatever they need to do, which I personally think is the Jesuits. And I personally think that the Jesuits were organized from a Jewish organization, and they called themselves the Jesuits in there. But I do believe, and nothing against Jews, like if you're a Jew that's just ordinary, sure, no problem. I have no problem with you. But I think that on the higher level, if we look at it, I think that, Hitler was trying to get rid of Jews in particular because of he was very inside on a lot of worldly things. He went to Tibet to find out time travel. He was in a lot of things, so he knew a lot. So I think he also knew that the head Jews, the elite Jews, had a big play in things, and that was why his absolute fucking chaos on Jews was stemmed from him wanting to take that power back over from them.
And so you think that stems? Well, see, that's what's confusing though, because the Jesuits, if the Jesuits are Jews, then they're part of the Vatican. Then why would they support?
I think that the Jesuits the Jews disguise themselves as Jesuits within Catholicism
just to take power from
power, and they were making money off of the war, World War II in particular, but Nazi Germany, on all of the amount of tanks and aircrafts and everything that was being bought through the banks. They were making all that money, and then when things got close, they basically sided with the United States and said, come and fucking end this guy, because they already kind of had it planned out in their head, like, each one of them get so far, make us a lot of money, and then let's take him out of there.
Right.
That's kind of my off defense on that in a nutshell, kind of sped up. Again, we're going to go into a Nazi Germany case file, so we'll get into that a little bit more depth, but I do think it's like a Jewish elites, or at least they're the second. And then maybe, like I said, if you want to go with David Icke or Ike's, however you want to pronounce it, theory on that there was reptilians that came down, or let's just say extraterrestrials from long before our written history that have been manipulating human beings, and they found a way to channel these aggressions into massive organizations that can have the reach of the Vatican and the Western world, United States for the military, and the Switzer banking and all that other stuff. So they've kind of found a way to, over time, just narrow that plan into one world order. And I do believe that they're probably trying to head for that. It's just a matter of us on the Great Awakening. If we become more knowledgeable than we are followers, then we can stop it. And I think it's more of a race in time before we're just controlled like drones and bots. Or if we go back to our spiritual side, research, and become more knowledgeable and awaken and raise that conscious level, we can beat the powers that be to not completely take over the world. Because if we look at numbers in particular, the amount of people that would be able to fight against this, maybe 1,000 or a handful of fucking elites that are doing this, or family members or families, we would definitely be able to take them with 7 billion or whatever else is left over, 7 billion plus.
Well, you would think that, but with that same argument, how every person.
I mean, just look in the United States. What we want done isn't carried out by our representatives or our government.
Not at all.
But that is a very limited number. What, two congressmen per state and whatever else, and all this and that, and then up the branch. There's still only a handful, but the whole United States is controlled by that. So it's like, we got to look at, I just don't think we know how powerful we are. There's a good meme out there. You can kind of search it. It basically has a bunch of what looks like slaves on their all fours, and there's a Monopoly board on their back.
Right.
And then all the bankers are playing on it. And it says, if we just stand up, they would have no control. And I honestly believe that. We just don't know what we're capable of as united. But they also find a way to divide us every chance they get. And we fell into that multiple times over. Race, sexism, age, everything. They find every way. So, in my off defense, I just think that it's a controlling factor trying to accomplish agendas that are more nefarious than good. And that has been proven through history. Unless they do something magnificent to prove otherwise, their whole entire track record says that it's nefarious. Where I'm at.
I would agree.
That's where I'm at. So with that, that was a lot. It was. And sometimes you get in there and you're just like, you just take the road. You just take the ride.
Just let it go where it takes us.
But again, there's a lot that you need to research. Global discussion, the Lost Info Podcast at gmail.com. You can comment with us, talk with us, tell us topics you want to look up. Again, subscribe on our YouTube channel and likes to help us out, or go to spectra.com and then purchase something. TLI 15 is the code on your checkout. Those are all things that will help us out. We'll move on to the joke section now. And
oh Lord,
I'm not even going to apologize, because I apologize a lot of times. I might apologize right now real quick for something that might be offensive, but it's just a joke, so take it. And we can't play a lot of this song because we'll get hit. So,
right.
So that is the joke section.
We do not own the rights to this song.
Yeah. So here we go. You guys in for a ride now?
Uh-oh.
All right. We're going to start off with nice and easy one. Nice and easy, gentle one.
Which is nothing that the priests have ever told all the boys.
All right. Well, that wasn't where we were going to start nice and easy, but it started. All right. So you walk into the Vatican. What do you think it smells like?
I don't know.
Probably potpourri. That was, and that was where we started out nice and easy. So the next one I got, a priest got fired because they said he didn't pass the schooling and had a pedophile tendencies. He said he came in a little behind in the seminary. That's brutal. That was brutal. Oh man.
What is the difference, Jake, between a Catholic priest and acne?
Give it to me.
Usually acne waits until you're 12 to come on your face.
Oh my God. That one was even farther than, that was even more brutal than mine. Holy shit. Man, we're ripping.
Rocking and rolling now.
We're ripping on them hard. All right.
Oh my. We are definitely, if heaven and hell exist, we have canceled our reservation.
Well, if the Vatican,
for St. Peter.
I was gonna say, if
St. Peter is crossing us off the list.
Well, we're gonna have to answer to all these if that's the case.
Oh, St.
Peter's
what they not say. Allow us in there.
He's gonna say, so you remember this case file 26 that you did? This joke, what the fuck?
That one right there is what we drew the line. We did a lot before then.
So what me and Jake are gonna do is we're gonna go do a good deed next week, and we're gonna go and do a confession, and it'll be all canceled out because that's how that works.
A couple Hail Marys.
Yeah.
Like, just throw some water over my shoulders, some salt on my forehead, however it works.
Yeah, and that's a human saying, you say this, and you're okay.
You tell me I'm good. I'm gonna relay it to God.
So we're good because we're gonna go do a couple Hail Marys and do this, and
bibbidi boppity boop.
And I'm gonna take this guy up in my
the dust around.
Yeah. Well, there's a veteran that's up on the Cross Avenue in the town that I live in, and I'm gonna go and.
I've never been to a Catholic confessional.
It's fucked up. It's weird.
Like not ever, but I will definitely do it.
It's weird.
I'm gonna record it.
You should.
I will. I'm gonna record it.
Hey, that's from Jake, and we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna air that as an episode.
Absolutely, we're down for that. Like 100%. I've never done it before, and then I can take communion, so I can take shots of wine after I do confession.
Well, that's the blood of Christ.
It's
the actual blood.
Yeah. Well, how would I not?
And by the way, with that being said, that brings up another question. When they say that this isn't a form or an idea.
No, this is
literal the blood and the body. So are we promoting cannibalism? Because what the fuck are we doing here? So
what is the point? What exactly am I getting from ingesting your blood?
Well, is that promoting cannibalism?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because I can believe all of your beliefs without ingesting your body.
Right. Yeah, again, another weird.
You don't believe me? Crack open this vein, take 2 shots of my B positive.
Let me shave.
You will believe me.
Let me shave off a little forearm.
Right.
And I'll cook it into a little biscuit.
I'm going to throw it. I'm going to cut some bacon off my arm real quick.
I'll cook it into a little biscuit.
Roll it up with a little
now you're holy.
And you will believe me. And then not only will you be holy, but you're going to get to ascend to heaven. Because you've now drank my blood.
I think I wrote this one.
What?
It was a while ago when I wrote these. So I think I wrote this one. This is the next one. Oh man, I'm already laughing. So I'm taking a dump in the Vatican. I guess that counts as a holy shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Jake. I'm Jake.
I'll be here all night.
All goddamn week. Try the fish. Tip your servers. We're here all night, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't get much better than this. I promise you, it can get a lot worse.
It can get a lot worse. Well, we've already touched on some bad ones. All right, we're going to go into the next one. What is the Vatican's term for breaking celibacy?
I don't know, Jake. What is it?
A minor issue.
Oh!
Oh, brutal. Oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
Oh, hey,
yes. Oh, that's perfect.
Now, so it was kind of weird because we went from a decent one to some really bad ones, and then we're gonna end it on a nice and easy one. So I think that should be good on a way to end the joke section, just nice and easy. So, did you hear that the Vatican made Swiss cheese the official cheese of the Vatican?
I did not.
They said it was the holiest of cheese.
The holiest. Oh,
oh man.
I love it.
We went from easy to brutal and eased you back up. That was our joke section. Actually, those were pretty funny. Actually, I liked them.
I was entertained.
Yeah.
I don't know how much our Catholic audience will appreciate.
No.
But those damn heathens are gonna love.
Yeah. And the thing is that I wrote these notes because we were going to do this episode way back. So it had been a while. So they were actually really funny to me because they were new again.
Right.
So I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too as well. This week, we've had a really busy weeks with Oli Part 1 and Oli Part 2 and Cody. Me and Jake are trying to get our schedules in sync to bring more content on the more consistent basis. So we will do that for you. And we have a very good surprise. I don't want to even hint towards what it is yet, but we are going to have a music video and something that I think that you're all really going to like. It should be interesting. It's relevant to the times, and it should be very good. So that we will air when it gets closer and finalized as far as the help that we have making it for you guys. So,
and I was thinking also that for some of our content that we should add, I haven't even crossed this path with you, so I think we should just give to the audience us together.
Sure.
So I think that we should set up a poll, and have them vote on case files. Like, have them make suggestions, and then the top 5 most suggested things over the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Then go to a 30-day poll, and then we will do those 5 podcasts in the order of the votes.
Well,
and it will give you what you want.
We can just start that now, because we can add case files if we don't get enough. But if you would like, go to the Lost Info Podcast at gmail.com
and subscribe. Add a suggestion. You have to subscribe to add the suggestion.
Actually, I like that better. You can go to Lost Info Podcast at gmail.com. Tell us who you are. Tell us that you like the show. But if you want to add what you want as the case file, you have to subscribe and like on YouTube, and then comment on this one or any other one below saying what the case file you want.
Right. And then we'll put them all together, and then we'll run a whole poll. Every one of them will eventually be done.
Right.
Because it's only a matter of time before they're eventually done.
I will say this, even though I said on 1,000, whatever else, I'll do that. I'll even make it even more interesting. I'll double down on it. If we get to 1,000 subscribers, I will put $200 of my own money, and then I will take the first, when we get to 1,000, I will take all of them and do a random generator. Whoever gets picked in that 1,000, I will give $200 of my own money.
Let's double it and call it 4.
So the first 1,000 have a chance at $400.
$400, not fake money. We're not going to Venmo you. We're not going to send you gift card. We will Cash App you $400. The first 1,000 subscribers,
or we'll enter it in a random drawing. So whoever's on there before, you're good, and whoever
you're already in it. The moment we hit 1,000 subscribers, the poll closes.
Well, as soon as we hit 1,000, we're just going to do the drawing random right then. So if you get after, we'll do more drawings. Maybe we'll get to the next number. But the first 1,000 will be entered in my 200 and Jake's 200. Jake and Jake's 200, so $400 when we get to 1,000, and that will be entered in the drawing. And I'll do DMT on this fucking thing
on the podcast.
So you motherfuckers better start subscribing, because you listen.
I don't know any podcast. I know 100 podcasts that have talked about doing DMT. I know tons of them that have gone over their experiences and testimonials. I've never ever watched a podcast that actually recorded the host blasting off into a DMT dimension while on the podcast.
Now, I don't know that
I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I
won't lie to you, but I don't know that I'll be able to do it on the screen, so I might step off but I won't be faking it. It will be real.
He'll be on screen.
I don't know that we can. I don't know. I'll have to look into those. Because I don't want I don't want it to be pulled, the video.
I understand.
But we'll figure it out. We'll figure that details out. You just subscribe and like. That's all you got to do.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and again, that's the first 1,000, and then that also being said, the first 1,000 also is in the drawing for $400 cash.
$400 Cash App random generator.
So, and I don't know what it takes other than pull your goddamn phone up, put the Lost Info Podcast and subscribe.
Hit subscribe,
and then in whatever time it takes, you have a chance at $400. Like, goddamn. And then the thing is that we won't stop there, because once we get going and you guys participate more in this global discussion,
the next 1,000 is going to be more than that. The next 2,500 is going to be more than that. We're talking about doing different remotes from different parts of the country, different parts of the world. We actually want to get to a point where and this is when I set up the website and the Patreon, when we start announcing names for people that are monthly subscribers, whatever else, we do want to do a drawing where you get to pick the topic, and we fly you to that location and do that topic with you. Do a remote podcast with you from that location. So you just have to participate and be a part of it, and we'll get there. And we'll get there together. Absolutely. So with that being said, you can go to spectra.com. If you want any CBD products,
TLI 15 at the end when you're checking out. They already put deals on their website, so that is an additional to their sales. You can go to the show notes. You can buy a hoodie or t-shirt or whatever you want from TLI. Another thing is the website is being worked on, so it might take a little bit because we've just been busy. But when that website gets done, I'm gonna have like a PayPal or something, little button there. You can donate $1 or $2, and every time you do that, you'll be entered in our fan base category. Because we're gonna keep everybody that helped us out, and again, more drawings and more benefits, and call your name out and have you call in, do an episode with us. So anybody that helps us out, we will log that and make sure you put your info that we can contact you in. We won't give it out online. If you want a screen name or you want whatever, even if you deposit actual money from your account, we will never give your name unless you want that, or your first name or whatever. And you'll always be entered in everything that we do as a collective in this global discussion. So again, we're not going to do a story time this week. It's just kind of busy. We might do one next week or later this week when we do another episode. So look forward to that. Otherwise, I believe that the Vatican is
it's a wrap.
Is a wrap.
Finito.
So this is the Lost Info Podcast. As always, Jake
and Jake.
And we are out. Peace.